AI is a club-wide capability. It's not a department. It's not something that sits in isolation. Because I think the danger that you can have is that it sits in IT. People see it as an IT function, and it doesn't have that kind of capability across the club. We've been very clear that we want everybody using AI. We don't want to replace anybody with AI. It's about how do we empower people, but in the right ways. So one of the things that I don't like doing is shoehorning technology on people. I think there's a real danger that you can shoehorn this very quickly onto people, and it has the wrong effect. Because a big part of AI is trust. One of the first things we did kind of when I joined, Rob gave a kind of all staff talk, and it was very much about here's the strategic direction that we want to take Reading Football Club. We want to be innovative. We want to be pioneering the AI and data side. So we had this kind of cultural change. And obviously there was a lot of things changing at the club because of the nature of takeovers and the challenges that Reading has had as a football club. So it was very much about how do we create this culture change from the top downwards? How do we de-fear AI as well? So I think the big challenge is that there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of fear, especially in the media, about the capabilities of AI and what it will do. A lot of people kind of jump to it's going to steal my job, which is not the approach that we want to take at Reading. It's very much how do we de-fear it and get people using it. So we do training across the club for all staff members, from the groundsman to the finance team to the management coaches and the exec board. What is AI? What can it do? And how can we potentially start using it just in our day-to-day life? Because once you start using it and you de-fear it a little bit, you're going to create that trust and you create that openness that, look, I'm not the Grim Reaper coming around like getting rid of people. I'm trying to make people's lives easier. And if there's processes that don't need to be improved, let's not improve them. My view is that, you can try and change everything and alienate people instead of, what we want to do is keep this kind of human-centric approach at Reading. There's still a human at doing the work. There's obviously some agentic stuff that can come in that can kind of speed it up. So we kind of see it as a across the club capability. But there is some quick wins that you can get. Sometimes you might need to say, actually, we have a short, sharp problem that we need to fix. Instead of building something ourselves, there is products out there that we can go and get. Some teams that are on this journey may say, actually, we have a sports science issue. We need to, use computer vision to be able to identify injuries. There is ways of doing it, and that's why every team is individual. There's not one common approach that can be taken to every team, because you have culture change that needs to happen, which takes time. You have budget restraints, which, cause challenges. It's not the cheapest thing in the world to do. Especially where we're kind of at the top of the hype curve at the moment. It's very difficult to go out and say, yeah, let's go and find a super cost-effective AI solution, because you kind of get what you pay for in this world. So you need to make sure that you bring the right technology in. So there's ways of doing it depending on your club, on your level, what you're trying to achieve. And I think the key question with all of this is, what are you trying to answer? Now, everyone jumps to AI as a solution, but if you don't know what you're trying to answer, how can you bring anything in? You need to kind of work backwards, work with the teams across the club to say, what are the problems that you currently have? And then look backwards, say, okay, well, how do we use technology, AI, data to be able to fix this? And that's a much better way of doing it. And actually, one of the biggest challenges that you have, and this isn't just like with football, this is with AI in general, is people jump to dashboards and AI strategies. They ignore the data side of things. It's like building a house on quicksand. You can get the house up, but how long it's going to stay up, who knows? If you have the strong foundations, which is kind of the data integrity side, the data auditing part, understanding what you have, and actually what data you actually need. Because that's one of the biggest things. Like if you put bad data into an AI model, it's going to produce bad answers. So it's the good data in, good data out analogy. And a big part of it is going on that initial journey, which is the unsexy part of AI, but it is making sure that the foundations are there, that so anything you do layer on top is working with the right data sets, clean data, and actually the data that's valuable to you, because it's very easy to have death by data in this world, and AI is king of that. There's 1,000,001 data sets you can have in football, but actually there's probably only 3 or 4 that probably matter to a manager, a coach, a sports scientist.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole infrastructure layer is a big one. But just to get back on what you were saying originally, I think it's also by having all your employ and especially when you look at the size of a club like reading, right? Like we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of employees who
No.
should potentially feel like threatened by AI. There are a few rules, but we're talking about like over 1,000 people company. Then you might think, yeah, AI might replace some of those
Yeah.
roles, but putting like having people start using AI makes them also feel how needed they are in that whole AI
Yeah.
process because it will never be as good as the prompting, as good of the understanding of the AI, like covering for that last 20% of the process, right? I always like to say AI brings you 80% there, but the last 20% is definitely human led.
Yeah.
There are definitely things that can't be done.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, and we have this mantra at Reading, human-centric data field.
yeah,
So, it is making sure the human's still there.
yeah,
We will never replace humans with AI. We'll augment, we'll empower them, but actually, there's a lot that the human still needs to do.
yeah.
And the more that we work with AI, the more effective we can be. But we're very keen that the human is still part of this because there's certain things that whilst the AI will just look at the data side, you have that human instinct, you have that human knowledge that the AI doesn't have at this moment.